Okay, now an introduction into non-duality. You know, most of my day I never think about non-duality at all. It just doesn't come into my mind. I might think about it. No. Why would I think about it? Very rarely would I think about non-duality. The only kind of thing I do is if there's pain in the body, then the attention gets rested into the body, but I don't even think about non-duality. It's a habit that I've been doing for so long that I don't even think about it. So if there's an emotional pain or if there's a physical pain, I'll rest the attention there. But I'm not even really, there's not even really any consciousness of it. It's a habit. And if it's really strong pain, like a really strong emotional pain or really strong physical pain, then I might lie down or get into bed and rest the attention there. But apart from that, non-duality doesn't get thought about at all. I'm trying to think if I ever think about something that I've been trying to formulate into words. But I really don't think about non-duality, so I don't look at anyone and think, oh, they're not the doer, she's not the doer, he's not the doer, or forgive them because they're not the doer. I just kind of respond and just have become a really, really normal human being in certain ways. In certain ways. I mean, also I can imagine that I'm really different human being, but that's more the personality that's different. Like I'm very creative and I spend a lot of time doing very creative things. I love to bike ride, I love to be by myself, and these sorts of things. And I don't have kids and I'm 36, so those sort of things compared to the majority of society, I suppose, are quite different. So in that way I'm very different, and I speak about non-duality, but in the day-to-day living I'm so normal. Like I have my routine, which I really love, my little routine. Me and Khaleesi get up and I wait until she asks me to go for a walk, which is normally about 9:30. I always have the intention of getting up and walking her straight away, but you know, that doesn't happen. So we wait till Khaleesi asks us for a walk and I eat. And I go for a bike ride or I go for a walk with her for a couple of hours and I sit in the forest and what you might call meditate, but I don't really have a particular meditation. I just kind of sit there and feel the body or let the thought comes or whatever it is. Then I come back and I do something super creative in the afternoon, whether it be writing, sessions with people, editing some videos, and then I do sessions in the evening. So it's such a simple, normal life, such an ordinary life. And I don't think about non-duality in that. I just think about what's right in front of me. And sometimes what's right in front of me, or half the time it's pleasurable and half the time it's painful. And I don't really have any imagination or any longing to get out of it. If it's really painful, then I take my time to let the body feel it. Don't try to, there's not an attempt to run away from it. And if it's pleasurable, sometimes I just lay in the pleasure. I'm just like, ya-da-da! But what I'm trying to say is that non-duality isn't about a dogma or a way of living or a religion or a thought process. It's really coming back to the simplicity of experiencing. And in that simplicity, this is the really amazing part, it's being experienced, but it's not being experienced for anyone. The someone is coming and going in the dream as a functioning that needs to happen, but that's no longer an experiencer. And so then there is just this smooth intimacy with everything that's happening. which doesn't have this boundary of inside and outside, and doesn't have this sense that there's somebody in here experiencing a world out there. It's very, very simple and very simplistic, but also in that there is something that's quite miraculous, and then at the same time very ordinary. And there's not that sense anymore that there's somebody that's got to get out of experiencing. Sometimes there's a habit of wanting to get rid of a pain or a past conditioning, but it's a very loose habit, and the focus normally is to put the attention on that pain. But there's nothing that's having the experience anymore. So non-duality is really questioning who it is that's experiencing this. Who is having an experience? When we're super identified, it's not a question. I remember once I went to do a talk at my mum's carers meeting. My mum was a governor of carers in the UK, which is complicated to explain what it is, but if you're English, maybe you know. And she invited me to do a talk on mindfulness. And I know a bit about mindfulness because of having practiced Buddhism for so many years. So I went there and I tried to explain to them that things are a thought. So a thought comes up and you're saying this has happened or this has happened, and it's just a thought. And what began to happen in the audience was they began to get really mad with me, and I couldn't understand why they were getting so angry. And luckily my friend was there at the time to explain to me they don't know they're thinking. They believe it's true. It's just true. There's no distance, there's no awareness that they're thinking. And I was shocked. I got into this subject when I was so young, I couldn't remember being fully identified with thoughts and not even knowing that I was thinking. So knowing that the thought, they're a pain in the arse or they're a bad person, that's a thought that arises in the brain and isn't actually a reality. And what happened was this audience began to get really mad with me, and luckily my friend took over because I had no clue why they were getting so mad. But they were getting mad because that was their reality. They believed that it was true. They weren't even aware they were thinking. That was just the way it was. That's the way it was. It was shocking. I was so shocked after that. Like I just couldn't remember it. And that's sometimes, I think I'm really great at relating to people, but sometimes I think I'm not so great in certain ways at relating to newcomers because it was so long ago that I got into this subject. And maybe sometimes a bit better for people that aren't so new to the subject. When they're new to the subject, I forget these little details. So at the beginning, you're just totally identified with what's happening. So any thought you have, you believe is a reality. So you believe that the table, that word table is a reality. You believe that I'm a woman and my name, that's a reality. Or if I annoy you, that's a reality. You don't even have a perspective that thoughts are appearing and colouring your reality like that. Now, normally people that listen to me, because I'm not so great with the beginners, have already come to conclusion and realised that thoughts are appearing. And there is a consciousness of thoughts. Now, two things happen there. So there's these thoughts appearing, and there's this personal awareness and attention that you can move onto some thoughts or away to other thoughts or move onto your body. And that's a functioning of the body, and that's not the big consciousness, because there's actually something beyond that personal movement of attention. Often people think that personal movement of awareness is the real awareness, and at first they look at that and they think that's it. But actually you begin to see that there's something beyond that that's looking at the person moving their attention. So maybe some of you guys still believe that awareness is that personal movement of awareness. But actually that is known too. That's appearing in the dream, and that's a functioning of the body. But in my talks and in other people's non-duality talks, we use that personal movement of attention. I instruct people to move it. But no, that is a functioning too, and that's not actually who you are. So at first you really believe that you're these thoughts appearing, and that your thoughts are true and everything you think is true, and then you begin to see that's untrue, but then you still think you're that personal awareness, and that you're that person that kind of chooses, and there is somebody there that's aware of the thoughts, but they choose, they have feelings, and they're still moving in time. So that personal awareness is moving in time. So you came into this room, you sat on this seat, and you looked at the computer, and ta-da! Here was Lisa. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Look at this fantastic jumper. I can see myself. Isn't it fantastic? Okay, sorry, serious non-duality, Lisa. Serious. Sorry, that's me testing my new microphone. I can see the sound waves on the side of the computer. Okay, what are we going back to? So we've got this the personal awareness, and a lot of people still believe they're that, and they believe that they have seen the true big awareness, but that person actually can't. You can't ever look at it. It's just looking. But often that's okay. That personal awareness turns around and feels like it's looking in the big awareness, and then eventually it sort of dissolves into it. But that's not actually who you are, and it's not actually someone that's having an experience. It is another experience. So the idea that you choose and that you're sitting here choosing to watch me is being experienced now. Something so big and boundless is experiencing that. That's not the actual experiencer. So there is a feeling of choice. So now everybody's got to make a choice. So I'm going to make everybody make a choice by asking a question. You can, and follow what I say. You know, this is like Simon Says. If you've ever played Simon Says before, you have to do as I say. So if I say Simon Says, you have to do it. And if I don't say Simon Says, you don't have to do it. Okay, this is very relevant to what I'm trying to explain to you. So make sure when you're sat there, you're actually doing it. Okay, so Simon says, tap your head. Now, you believe that you're tapping your head, that you chose to move your hand up there. Or maybe you don't even think that you chose, but you feel like you moved your hand up there to tap the head and that you're tapping the head. But actually, that is happening, and you don't know how it's happening, and there's somebody or something that's kind of very subtly describing that you're doing it, but that's being experienced. That's not the actual reality of it. Okay, now Simon says, pull your hair. So that's not, so you kind of like very subtly have told yourself a story that you're doing it. But if you come directly back to the experience, it's happening and that it's being experienced. And even that story that you are doing it is simply a story in thought formation that's appearing, giving the experience that somebody is inside the body doing it. Okay, and touch your arm. Now, who did that? Remember, it's Simon Says, so you got to have Simon Says first. So Simon says, touch your nose. Simon says, touch your head, forehead. Touch your boob. Who did that? We didn't say Simon Says. Simon says, touch your mouth. Simon says, touch your throat. Simon says, touch your arm. Stand up. Now, who stood up? Now, what happens in our bodies is we take responsibility with it. So if you got it right, you're like, And there is a very subtle somebody taking responsibility of it. And that's not wrong. Lisa takes responsibility that she did it all correctly. She didn't make any mistakes. But the difference is that's not the experiencer. That's seen as a formation appearing in this, but not an actual separate entity. So there's the story being told, okay, Lisa did very well, but that's not someone, that description, Lisa did very well, isn't actually somebody inside the body. That's an experience that comes and goes. Now, I'm sorry guys. I know I always try to not burp on these shows, but I end up doing it, and then people tell me it's because I'm a vegan, or that I need to take this or that to stop the gas. But if I was really identified, it would feel like I really did it, and then maybe I'd be embarrassed, or I'd be ashamed, or I'd be worried about, what the viewers think and that they're going to switch off because I did that. But embarrassment can still happen in me, but that's not somebody in here. That doesn't equal someone. That's just words appearing. When you're really identified, it's like the words become reality. But then when the identification begins to break, then it's just all kind of happening in one boundless space, and nothing really belongs to anything. There can still be the description of Lisa's body or your body or what's happening, but there's nothing claiming any of that. And there's not that energy of, because it's being claimed that you have an experience, there's not that energy of trying to keep that person alive and make that person perfect. It's just as it is, as it is.